Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Roberto Corona. I'm an Italian anthroposopher and astrologer, and in this video we're going to talk about the next new moon in Sagittarius happening on December 1st. Now, it's not going to be an easy moon since it's going to take place in close conjunction with star Antares, the heart of the Scorpio constellation. And please note that this is the second moon in a row that occurs in conjunction with a malefic star, since the previous full moon was in conjunction with both Uranus and star Algol. Now, with this moon, we officially enter Sagittarius season, and this is the final and third part of autumn, which is going to walk us through little by little the Advent period towards, of course, the mystery of Christmas. Let's take a look at the chart, starting as always from the latest variations in the sky. There is very little news here. On November 20th, we had Pluto entering Aquarius for good, and this is very important since this is the last and definitive ingress of the planet in its new sign. 2 days later, we have the Sun entering Sagittarius on November 22nd. This is the Sun with the Moon, in conjunction, of course, because this is the chart of a new moon. And remember that on November 26th, we're going to have Mercury turning retrograde, and you can watch my dedicated video about it. I leave it in the description box down below. Now, this is a new moon, and this means that it represents the beginning of the process of manifestation of the etheric forces, which gradually increase with the waxing moon up to the full moon. And in this sense, the new moon is a cosmic seed. It is a good time to sow and start new things. This manifestation process will reach its culmination with the next full moon, which is going to be a full moon in Gemini happening on December 15. So back to the chart, we have Sun and Moon at 9 degrees 32 Sagittarius here in the starry image of Scorpio, and they are both in close conjunction with star Antares, the heart of the Scorpion, a star of the nature of Jupiter and Mars, which is not easy to handle, right, to say the least. What's interesting about the conjunction is that the moon in particular is on the same degree of latitude as the stars. So this is a very, very close conjunction, also in terms of latitude and not only by longitude, right? Now, being in Sagittarius, the new moon is, of course, ruled by Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, and we know that Jupiter is in Gemini. And what's good here is that Jupiter is still in mutual reception with Mercury in Sagittarius. So they are both in the respective zodiac sign of the other planet. And this is an excellent configuration, right? Although we have to say that both the planets are retrograde, this is not great, and that Mercury is invisible. In fact, Mercury is under the rays of the sun, so we can't see Mercury, so it is weaker. The luminaries are also making a trine with Mars in Leo, and what's interesting about this Mars is that it is slowing down more and more by the day, right? Let's remember that Mars, in fact, will turn retrograde a few days later on December 7, and it is making this very strong trine with the new moon. The Sun and Moon are also making a square with Saturn. Down here, we have Saturn in Pisces, and this red line is the square that they are making, and in turn, Saturn is making a square also with Jupiter, as you can see here. And this means that we have the Jupiter-Saturn square coming back. And it will last for the entire month of December. And we discussed about it. It was in August, right? So let's now talk about the meanings of the chart, starting as always from the physical significations. And from this perspective, the chart is all about taking action. Why is that? Well, first of all, because this is a new moon, right? Meaning that this is a good moment for getting things started. But also because we have the moon making a trine with Mars, which is the very planet of action itself. And this means that the moon is going to create a great momentum in this regard. Now, the presence of the star Antares refers to expansion, yes, but also fighting, and especially military achievements. It is, in fact, a warmongering star of the nature of Mars and Jupiter, and for this reason, we could witness some military maneuvers. Now, the square with Saturn, on the other hand, creates hindrances, issues, problems, slowdowns, you name it. And for this reason, it is easy to make mistakes under this moon, so we need to be very careful. Now, these mistakes can definitely come from a bad evaluation or even a bad analysis. And this is because Mercury, which represents the mind and the intellect, is retrograde. It is under the rays of the sun, meaning that we must pay extra attention in order to avoid being dazzled and confused. On the positive side, the chart features, however, a mutual reception between Mercury and Jupiter, which is definitely going to help. And how specifically? Well, Jupiter is the planet of wisdom, right? So it is going to make us learn from our mistakes. In fact, in my opinion, the chart is all about taking action, right? So the wisdom here does not rely in avoiding, taking action. But on the contrary, it's all about understanding that making mistakes is the only way to grow wiser, really, right? Finally, also remember that traveling is not recommended during Mercury retrograde. And again, you can watch my video about it to learn more. Moving on to the soul meanings of the chart, from a psychological perspective, we have Sagittarius that gives us a great boost in terms of optimism and confidence, and this is quite good. So we might be also feeling oriented towards exploration, towards setting for adventure, so to speak, especially given the extra oomph coming from Mars in Leo. On the other hand, star Antares can lead us to channel all this fire, all this Sagittarius and Leo energy into the clash, into battle, and ultimately into war. In fact, let's remember that the last full moon was in conjunction with Uranus and Algol, and so it was easy to lose one's head, one's mind. But here, the danger is to inflame in a real war, so keep that in mind. We also want to remember that in this sense, Mercury retrograde brings misunderstandings in communication, so we must be extra careful again. Mercury retrograde, however, is very favorable for shadow work, for introspection, so we can definitely make good use of this transit, I would say. Finally, let's add that the square of Saturn, which, as we mentioned, is creating hindrances and slowdowns and so on, could bring us, a certain frustration, especially because Mars, which is the planet of action, making a trine to the moon, is very, very slow. So Mars can get quite frustrated by this square. Now let's get to the spiritual meanings of the chart, and from this point of view, the new moon is shining in the starry image of Scorpio. Now, in astrosophy, this constellation is connected to the manifestation of the forces of the Holy Spirit within humanity, and I want to underline within humanity because unlike the opposite constellation of Taurus, where the same forces manifest themselves directly at a macrocosmic level, and we talked about it in the last video, here they are manifesting at a microcosmic level within humanity. And what does it mean that the forces of the Holy Spirit are manifesting within humanity? They manifest themselves through people, through the so-called great initiates, the masters and teachers who have achieved a higher degree of inner development, anticipating human evolution as well, sharing with humanity their teachings and their great spiritual insights. So this means that we find here, represented by this new moon in Sagittarius, a living spiritual community, because Sagittarius is all about community life. Spiritual community specifically of individuals working together, sharing the ideals and teachings transmitted by the great initiates. And so what can these communities do? This is an interesting question. So through the star Antares and the trine with Mars, they can fight. So we're not talking here about, fighting on an external level, but rather fighting spiritually, fighting on an internal level, that is cultivating spiritual thoughts, cultivating spiritual feelings. And in fact, let's remember that from this point of view, thoughts and feelings are real things, and they act in a real way, affecting reality. And what's interesting about especially the star is that in general, in the astrological tradition, several malefic stars, of course, including Antares and Algol, are known to be used for defensive purposes. Purposes against evil specifically, by ensuring that their energy is directed to contain or even to fight back, to cancel the effects of the forces of hindrance. Now, star Antares is a quite beautiful star, really, because it's one of the 4 royal stars of ancient Persia, also called the guardian of the West. And this star is connected to the forces of archangel Uriel, who, as we know, is a very serious archangel, being the archangel of old Saturn. Uriel, in fact, can provide us with the strength, the firmness, and the boldness to face, defeat, and even subjugate demons. As always, thanks for watching. If you want to support my work, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell not to miss out on future astrological insights. I am Roberto Corona. See you in the next video.